when I was growing up, I remember when my dad decided he just quit. Right, there was things that he was willing to do, and then there was a point where he quit. And where he chose to quit was when the VCR came out. He was not going to learn how to use it. So anytime we would get a movie, we were in too small of a town for Blockbuster, but I think that little hometown VHS place, when we would rent movies for the weekend, it was always either my mom, my sister, or myself in charge of putting videos into the VCR. And my dad had drawn a line. He's like, I'm not learning that technology, which, had a loving family, and we all wanted to watch the movie probably more than him anyway. So it didn't really negatively impact his life, I wouldn't say. But I think it's interesting to notice, where have you quit in your life? Where have you given up? Where have you stopped? And, I think in times of difficulty and survival, growth does tend to pause, right? It's like a tree going into winter. That's not where the massive growth happens, and some people stopped at COVID. Some people stopped around the election. Some people have stopped based on their age or some belief they have about the point that they've made it to in life. And the reality is, you're either growing or you're dying. As Andy Dufresne says, get busy dying, get busy living, or get busy dying. And so what I want to point out is, if you're not sure if you're growing or declining, the answer is you're probably declining. Life happens gradually. It's like going in to get your new driver's license picture taken. You're like, oh my God, I've changed that much in 5 or 10 years. It's something that happens gradual and we don't notice it. So one, notice where you've changed. If you can't notice, it's a decline. And it might be like, oh yeah, like I can't walk as far without breathing heavy, or my business used to be amazing in this area, but it isn't, or I'm no longer actively dating my partner. We're just cohabitating. So take a look at where maybe you've increased, where you've decreased, and just be aware of that. Second is, decide what matters. Like, if being comfortable is what matters, just name that and do that. But know that it's a choice, and know that it's a decline. When somebody climbs into that lazy boy chair, a lot of times they never climb out, right? It's a step towards a decision about where they're wanting to be in life. When we give up in certain areas of our life, it begins a momentum in that direction. And so just really decide what matters. Do you want to have great experiences? Do you want to be healthy? Do you want to be alive and active when your grandkids are around, or your great grandkids? Is there a certain level that you want to get to in business for yourself, for your legacy, for your family? Is there something that you want to do on another level as far as maybe depth of your spirituality? Right? So really seeing what matters and making decisions around that. And then the last piece, you might want to consider who you're mentoring, right? And that's a name that maybe not a lot of people have, people that are actively being mentored by or mentoring, but somebody's always watching, right? Your kids, your grandkids watch how you are either addicted or not addicted to your phone, how you show up either with anger, shortness, or empathy and love. It gets noticed at the office or in our business. We know who the lazy bosses are. We know who the bosses that'll, step right next to somebody and actually put in the work are. We know how people are showing up in the community. So who are you mentoring? Who's watching? And what is it that you want their takeaway to be? A lot of times I'll hear people talking about relationship or divorce and like, oh, we're staying in this for the kids. I get that. And is that the lesson that you're wanting to teach them? And I don't have any judgment one way or the other. Everybody's situation is individually their own, and somebody's watching. What is it that you're wanting to teach them? And if they do things exactly the way you're doing it right now, is that going to make you happy? Is that going to make you turn over in your grave in a negative way? So really be tracking those three things. Notice where you've changed, decide what matters, and three, who's watching? And what do you want them to see and learn from you? Love to hear any takeaways, any things that showed up. And sometimes you're killing it. Please name that below. We want to celebrate you. And other times it's like, oh, wow, I've slid in this area and I wasn't aware of it. Name that below as well. And if I can help you with anything, please send me a DM. Let me know. Let's work together and make sure that this next year is the best year yet.